It's episode 3 of what we have now called the Parks and Bennis podcast, and tonight we're joined by 2 more guests. I'm joined today by Crystal Palace fan and all-round good person, George. How are you, George?
I'm all right. Better than I was yesterday. But still, still not great. But yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks, man.
Yeah, and I'm also joined by Liverpool fan and LJMU extraordinaire, Sam Milne. How are you?
Good, sir. Yeah, top of the league, can't go wrong.
You have to get the top of the league, and didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Just couldn't help yourself, could you? Well,
No.
we're on mid-table mediocrity in the relegation battle. You have to get the top of the league in. So, what we best start doing is looking through the weekend results and then going into some questions that have sporadically been asked, and we will not be including Alfie's request to join the podcast. So as one of the only questions we got in, but we'll have a look. We'll start with your boys at Watford 2, Newcastle 1. Big win.
It was a big win. Fortunately, we had a very good second half because the first was absolutely horrendous. So the first half, we deserved to be behind because there was nothing going on. It was basically the same. Performance of the previous few games. Fortunately, we came out in the second half, and it's everything we wanted from those previous games in order to actually get out of this relegation battle. Hughes in particular was unreal. Deeney, for once, he was all right, and I've been a big critic of him, but I'll give him credit. Although he missed 2 horrendous chances, he put away 2 penalties, so I'll give him that. Overall, very good result, very important result. It's just a shame that yesterday's results didn't go our way.
No, they didn't. Did Nigel Pearson change anything up in terms of like the way he's been going about things? Because I know he's been getting some criticism in the last few weeks. I think a bit unfair, but did he change anything up?
Like I said, first half there wasn't really much difference from previously. Second half, we got Samuel involved. The link up between him and Kiko was much improved. And yeah, he changed up in the second half a little bit, and it did work in our favour, mainly from getting Sarr, who's of course our main attacking outlet at the moment with Deulofeu injured. So I'll give Nigel Pearson credit as well.
Right, I'd take this with a pinch of salt, but I've seen on the stats on the Premier League that Watford committed 23 fouls in that game. Would you say that's a fair reflection of how the game went?
23 fouls is that?
23 fouls. Newcastle.
That's about half the amount you committed against us, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's just what you want. You got come on with Will Hughes and Etienne Capoue in midfield. There's bound to be quite a few fouls.
That's 20 true. Of them were just Capoue's.
And that doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
But you also had 14 shots on goal, which is considerably more than what you have been. You've been quite, I'm going to say the word limited in the last few games.
Yes.
Especially against Chelsea. And I thought against Southampton as well, where you're just knocking it wrong to Deeney and hoping for the best, really. But it seemed to be that you were getting some joy with Sarr and Welbeck. Am I just, yeah?
No, yeah, that's all true, especially Welbeck. I'd say, obviously, he's had serious injury problems, as we all expect. But he came on against Chelsea. The final half an hour or so, we were a lot better going forward. He helped push the team up. We were more attacking. We're better without Deeney. I've got to mention that. So Welbeck's been much improved recently, and it's all about getting those 2 wingers involved because Deeney's probably one of the most limited strikers in the league. So it's vital we do get the wingers involved if we're going to have any chance of staying up.
Yeah, as a Liverpool fan, Sam, you're probably a big Newcastle fan too because both teams love each other more than like. So Newcastle with their 6 shots and 15 fouls. I'm taking these stats with a pinch of salt, to be honest. But 52% possession. Newcastle, they started lockdown pretty well, but they've seemed to have dried up in the past few weeks, haven't they?
Yeah, they look like they come out of lockdown with a bit of the. They sort of knew they were safe, so they've tried to play with a bit more freedom, and then they started the Watford game the same way, didn't they? And conceded the 2 goals, and I didn't see the second half, so I can't say much more.
Yeah, I didn't watch the full game as I was watching Norwich and West Ham for sure. But I do think though that win at that point, I put a tweet out after the game saying that's probably Watford safe now. But with the Sunday game, which we'll touch on in a bit, that's probably not true. But I imagine if Watford didn't win that game, that would be pretty good.
If we didn't win that game, we'd be. I don't think we'd have any chance of survival if we lost.
Yeah.
No.
As Watford win, you're a big fan of Watford, I presume, George.
To be honest, I mean, I found this sort of, I don't know if you could call it a rivalry or whatever, the sprout up between Palace and Watford. Well, exactly. I just think the whole thing is a bit of a joke, to be honest. I think what it is it's two clubs who didn't have a rival when they first came up, and they've just been poking the other. Ever since the playoff final, where Wilfried Zaha won a perfectly good penalty, and some Watford fans, just haven't been able to let it go. But either way, I mean, I'm not sort of has any feelings towards Watford either way. I mean, when they made the FA Cup final last year, a few Palace fans were like, "Oh, I hope they lose. I hate them." It's like, I don't really care. I'd be nice to see someone break City's treble, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Watford's their survival chances and them as a team, I'd honestly be. I know you're. It's obvious. You're more pessimistic when it's your own team, and the problems are a lot clearer to you. But I think as an outsider, I'd still be very surprised if Watford went down, mainly because of the quality of the teams still below them. I mean, I know Villa won, but they really were nothing special that game. We were just absolutely awful, and we just literally rolled over and gave it to them. So it was. I mean, I get why you're worried, because particularly with the West Ham game as well, if you lose that one, then I think you've got, was it Man City and Arsenal left? So yeah, those aren't games you want to go into. But I think that Pearson, I think that his style of football is very much suited to keeping teams up by the skin of their teeth, almost. As a Palace fan, I think I've got a lot of experience in that area. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The next game against West Ham is going to be a big one, and I think whoever wins that game is basically safe. And I think a draw will probably keep both teams up as well. But it is definitely going to be interesting, and I think that you're right to be worried, but I also think that I don't know. I can't see them going down personally from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I mean, I can't bring myself to comment on our survival hopes until the next two games between Bournemouth and Villa are done, because they play before us.
Yeah.
If they both get positive results, and Watford or West Ham lose, the loser of that game between Watford and West Ham will go down, if you ask me. A draw could be okay, but it rides heavily on other results, and that's pretty much what we've got away with so far.
I just on that, we're going to talk about West Ham now. But if any of you listened to the last step podcast, I put a prediction out at the end, and this was before West Ham went on a good run, that West Ham would be relegated this season. And since I've had nothing but abuse from Alfie Jones for saying that they're going to get relegated, I would love nothing more than Watford to beat West Ham and put them right in the mire so I can give it to them. I'm right.
I just want them to stop nicking our players, or at least getting linked with the same players every window. Because every time we're linked with a player, it's always together, the two of us, in a rumour. And I mean, the thing for me with West Ham is they've gotten out of sticky spots so many times that I just can't see them. It's a bit like us. I just can't see them going down because they just have a habit of doing it. And they always pull it out of the bag. But again, I certainly wouldn't complain if they. I don't even particularly hate West Ham. Like of the teams that in that pack, they're definitely the ones I'd like to see go down the most personally.
Yeah, for me, West Ham, I want to see them go down, not necessarily because the fans are any worse than any other sets of fans, but because of the owners. I just think the move from Upton Park to the Olympic Stadium has killed that club completely. Like, you used to go to Upton Park and it would be a tough game. You only have to look at that last season when Pyatt was playing for them. I think they finished 5th or 6th, and they played really well. I think the last game at Upton Park, they beat United 3-2, I think, and the atmosphere was incredible. And as soon as they moved to the Olympic Stadium, you saw all the protests against the owners become a bit more, they became more present in the stadium and everything was kicking off. And I'd just like to see them go down because the owners, they're like a dictatorship on that club. When West Ham came to Liverpool, the West Ham fans were planning a protest and the owners deliberately didn't take up the full ticket allocation, so the protest would be less visible on television. and like Karen Brady and
For West
David
Ham.
Gold, David Sullivan. They're not. I'm not sure they're the nicest people. So
I don't like West Ham, but there's a couple of reasons why I'd like them to go. A, Alfie Jones. I would love to see Alfie Jones suffer relegation. I don't know. That's one. Two, I'd love to see David Moyes get relegated and wipe the smile off his face as well. And three, because I just think them players are just the most overrated group of footballers I've ever known in my life. I don't know if any of you watched West Ham and Burnley on Wednesday. I don't imagine any of you would. Karen Carney.
it's dedication. Though.
Karen Carney coming out with Yarmolenko as the best player in the Premier League coming in on his left. If you don't mean it.
Is there a guy called Mo Salah playing in the Premier League?
Well, we'll get on to Mo and his diving in a minute. But,
nonsense.
Well, Riyad Mahrez is the answer, but anyway. Anyway, it's not Yarmolenko. After Norwich, they were relegated after the game. I'm made up. There's no way you can spend that little with that manager and play 100 million pass football and expect anything else than what you've been given. And that's relegation. And I'll go as far as to say, I hope we never see him or Norwich City ever again.
I'll tell you why you come to that conclusion. Because Sean Dyche isn't in charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, may I say, the man who has the record points total in the Premier League with Norwich is a certain Chris Hughton. So maybe
No, it's not. Well, if you're talking about Premier League, there was that one season where they finished third and got
that
like
was
what was it,
Mike
70
Walker,
points or something.
Chris Sutton was up front, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, exactly. But
Mike Walker doesn't exist. Everton manager.
Right.
I would say on Norwich this season, guys, they played Liverpool at Anfield the first game of the season, and we won 4-1. But we all thought after the game, if they play like that all season, they'll stay up because, I mean, they're the worst team to come to Anfield defensively probably all season, but they created a lot of chances. And Pukki was scoring. Pukki was putting them away, wasn't he?
The problem is that's fine if you're battering the teams around you 3-4-0 or 3-4-1. But they weren't. They lost 5-1 at home to Villa. They lost to Brighton home and away. I mean, they're not winning the games they need to. It's all well good playing attacking football, but you've got to actually score the goals, and they're the lowest score in the division below us.
As soon as Pukki finishing started drying up, the goals weren't coming from anywhere. Cantwell was carrying them really, so since then, it's all been downhill, hasn't it?
I was going to say that the problem with Norwich is individually they've got a few decent players. You know, Buendia, Cantwell, Godfrey, Aaron. These are decent individual players, but they're so open. And like you said, with Pukki's goals drying up, Buendia is one of my favourite players to watch. He creates so many chances, but of course he scored his first goal of the season against us. So that shows they didn't have the goals, but when pretty much when Cantwell wasn't scoring because Pukki's goals dried up very quickly.
Yeah, don't worry about Norwich. I think they beat us. And that fella who's on now playing 4th Division German football, Dennis Benny or whatever his name is, scored past. So anyone could have beaten us then. So if they can take anything from the seasons that they beat us on our lowest ever ebb. So good luck Norwich in the Championship as all. You said you thought they would stay up after the 4-1 mauling they had at Anfield. I went as far as to say if they play like that all season, they'll be gone in January. There's no way you can defend like that in this league.
Well, we thought they'd be exciting to watch, but as it's turned out,
yeah,
no.
I think a lot of people kind of looked at that first performance and got a bit carried away. I remember saying before the season started, I said Norwich would be. I said they'd be rock bottom. I said they wouldn't score enough, but I thought they would be fun to watch.
No.
They'll be wrong, but
well, West Ham and Watford, they're certainly both in it after the Sunday's results. But we're going to go to Anfield now, and this is probably my favourite result of the weekend. I would go as far as to say it's probably my favourite result all season, and that is Liverpool 1, Burnley 1.
What's the term? Is it rent free? The term. Anyway, well, you say that Burnley got the result. I don't think they really deserved it. Liverpool. We dropped points at Anfield for the first time in the league this season, but it was actually going forwards. It was one of our better performances. Just when we scored that first goal, we looked really sharp. The front, we had Curtis Jones making his first league start, and Nico Williams playing right back for the first time in the league. And they looked really good. They were breaking lines. They were getting in behind. But we just weren't clinical enough. The front three weren't clinical enough. The last 10 minutes of the first half, we started giving the ball away a bit much, and we let Burnley back into the game, and we missed chances. They missed chances. But I think on our day we could have won that one. But it's Sean Dyche. It's Burnley. It didn't happen.
You were Dyche?
Yeah, that's what happened.
I'm just getting the stats up. Liverpool had 24 attempts, 9 on target, 75% possession. Burnley had 5 shots, 2 on target.
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, you say that Liverpool had a load of chances, but at the same time, the thing with Sean Dyche team is they sit so deep, and your defence keeps them so far out that you're forced to have all your shots outside the box, where they're naturally going to miss a lot more.
No, this is what Owen was saying after the match. We don't shoot from range at all, really.
You did against us. And, you got 2 goals from range against
you. But in all our chances, Curtis Jones missed 2 from the edge of the 6-yard box, and Marnie did have a couple of shots from range second half. But no, I think it was one of them where if we were just more clinical, we win the game, and we go 26 points clear instead of 23.
See, Owen over Liverpool seemed really special at the time, and now you're dropping points left, right, and centre. So, can you just sort it out?
I would say though, Watford. What I seen when Watford came to Anfield, that was probably an away team, arguably an away team's best performance at Anfield this season in the league. Anyway,
it's a shame
you were brilliant,
Abbas.
Yeah, you were brilliant, and then obviously Vicarage Road happened, as it often does. Liverpool have a bit of a I've forgotten the word, a bit of a hoax at Vicarage Road, even going back years, to be honest. I've heard examples of in the 70s and 80s we couldn't win at Vicarage Road.
Yeah, what I would say though is 1 defeat in 13 games now for Burnley Football Club. Not bad at all for a long ball anti-football.
We're just using this podcast for propaganda, aren't you?
Yeah, anti-football, small town, shit club, all of them. They're not bad, is it? But 1 defeat in 13 Premier League football matches. And yeah, Graham Potter's still likely to get a bigger job over them. Just nonsense. But they're looking good for Europe. On to the late game and another team who just won't get the credit they deserve. Sheffield United 3, Chelsea 0.
Don't know about that. They've been getting a lot of credit this season.
Yeah.
Not enough.
It doesn't suit the agenda.
Yeah.
But Chelsea... Yeah.
Chelsea are a tough one to work out, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's weird because they beat City 2-1 and they held firm. But when you that was a bit of an anomaly, really. You look at Chelsea and you're wondering why they're signing Timo Werner and trying to sign Havertz when it's so obvious that what they need is strengthening at the back.
I don't agree with Werner there, because I've heard, I didn't watch the Sheffield United game, but I heard Abraham was quite poor.
Werner is a good player.
I think Werner will be an important signing, but I do get your point in that.
It's just a bit strange, isn't it?
It's obvious that their defence is the main issue here.
Yeah, I look at Chelsea and I think they need a bit more. When Kante isn't in the midfield, they lack bite. And I know Palace get a lot of criticism for their 3 older midfielders, but I think Chelsea could do with one of them just to break the game up, because they don't have any.
They could take Luka off our hands. He's been useless all season.
But yeah, they need a bit more bite in there. And I know Man United, they've got Pogba and Fernandes, but they've also got Fred and Matic who'll put the foot in.
Yeah, it's Fred who's done that this season.
Yeah, I don't see that with Chelsea. They had all the ball, 76% possession, but they just couldn't break Sheffield United down if they played until now. And credit to Sheffield United, they're really in the race for Europe now, and I hope they get it, to be honest, because they really deserve it. But what I would say though, with Chelsea in the top 4, it's a good job Leicester are so awful, because I really didn't fancy them. Brighton 0, Man City 5. I mean,
That was my, what was it, Wednesday night entertainment sorted? That was great.
Yeah.
I think this is a perfect example of both teams being on the beach. Because
Yeah,
realistically,
pretty much.
I know the Sunday's results put Brighton 5 points above the drop, but I think that there are too many teams in between 18th and Brighton for them to go down. Whereas City, obviously, they haven't lost the league title. They've lost the league title. They're not going to finish below second. So
All
it's just
Guardiola's
exactly
eggs are all in the cup basket, aren't they? They're all in the FA Cup basket, Guardiola's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch this game, I've got to be honest. Brighton and Man City is not really up my street to watch on Saturday night.
No,
Um,
definitely not your cup of tea, that's for sure.
No, but Brighton had 30% possession and 3 shots, none on target. Another night of beautiful, entertaining football at the Amex to see.
It can happen to anyone against Manchester City.
We don't
Happened
speak
to
of
us
that
last
against
week.
Manchester City.
Except when we go there and we win 3-2 and we draw 2-2 with a last-minute winner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
not
it
an
isn't
equaliser,
quite,
it's not a winner.
it's not
Can.
quite an 8-0 defeat. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I think I'm the only one who could talk about that on here.
Yeah, right. There's nothing much to say about that game other than if Man City score the first goal against you, it's going to be a long game.
Yep.
No matter who you are, and that's tough. There's a game at Molineux. There's any, apparently there's a game at Molineux.
Apparently you've got a lot to say about Everton's midfield, so...
Oh yeah, because I've been getting a lot of questions in about
Go on.
that.
Okay, Andre Gomez, go.
Take it away.
He didn't play, so I can't blame him.
Are we sure?
Because I'd love to blame him, but I just can't.
Go on, tell us about Tom Davies. I'm interested about Tom Davies.
Do you know when people say Tom Davies is League One? They're absolutely right. He's genuine League One. He is out. I'm probably doing League One players a disservice. He's genuinely horrific. He does moments in the second half where Luca Dean gave the ball to Davies and he just kicked it out to play. It was like someone, and then it was clipped up on Twitter, and someone put that clip and said, "Tom Davies, Premier League midfielder, you decide."
I remember when I got told by an Everton fan on Twitter that Tom Davies would walk into Watford's midfield. So
This
that's a
isn't
shout
John
out to
Joe,
you,
is it?
Royal Blue.
Is that John Joe?
Yeah.
Great.
There's another not rivalry we can talk about. Watford Everton. What the hell's happened? Is it all just because of
Cards derby.
Silva and
That's
Richarlison?
gone now. We don't
It's a
care
Z
anymore.
Cards
Okay,
derby.
It's
good.
all Marco Silva, but that's gone.
Yeah.
No,
It's
they
Z
don't
Cards.
care, but you get the odd Everton fan hoping want them to go down. Why? Because West Ham's such a great away day, is it? The one pub in 4 miles, but anyway. No, we were genuinely horrific, and my one plea of anyone, even knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who has any say of any recruitment of Everton, is just give the manager what he wants in the summer, because without that, we're just going to be in the same position next season, because them players have just got nothing about them. Seamus Coleman fuming after the game. Carlo Ancelotti saying the attitude's unacceptable. We know this from some of these players, and can I just stop hearing this clamour for Moise Keane to play football? He's League One as well. He's actually worse than League One. He's worse than the ass. Clip it. I want someone to clip it. He's woeful.
In all seriousness, though, I think when you got, because I'm looking at Everton's starting 11 here. They had Anthony Gordon, Gilbert Sigurdsson, and Tom Davies in midfield. That's no defensive stability whatsoever. They had Theo Walcott, a right wing back. They apparently had Digne at left centre back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to be done at
You see,
Everton.
the thing for me with Tom Davies is, I think he's partly living off that Everton 4 City 0 or City 1 game when he scored that goal where he ran from the halfway line. And ever since then, I've sort of thought he had potential, and I think it is difficult for him when he's playing with Sigurdsson and Gomez, who are statues in the middle, and he's having to do all the running basically for them. But as you say, you watch Everton more than me, you'll know his qualities better than we do.
Yeah, I know.
Do with a bit of a James McCarthy in midfield, don't you think?
James McCarthy. Well, to be honest, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm not. I'm going to say no. We couldn't. James McCarthy wouldn't do anything to our midfield.
Really?
In his prime, yeah. Not now.
No, I think Everton need to be looking beyond James McCarthy of these worlds.
I'm not saying they should sign him back. I'm just saying if you had him as an option on the bench, at least it would be some sort of stability. But
he played about 4 times.
I appreciate I'm trying to offload one of the 4 CDMs that we already have, but
well, I'm fed up of talking about Everton. Wolves are good, good for them. But I'm gonna let George talk about Crystal Palace because I bet he can't wait to talk about.
How long you got? Pour yourself a nice glass.
No, I bet he can't wait to talk about Crystal Palace and how brilliant they've been since the lockdown. I tell you what, in Man City, they're quaking in the boots, aren't they?
Well, do you know what? I mean, it's like when we actually the first game against Bournemouth, I genuinely thought we were going to go on a bit of a run. I mean, because that was our 4th win on the bounce before the lockdown with the 3 we had before. And we played some in the first half. We actually played some decent stuff. But since then, we've just completely fallen apart. And what really annoys me is
do you think the issue there is the whole squad and like everyone at the club has just saw 42 points and thought, you know what, can't be.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And but the weird thing about that is we had the same thing, pretty much the same thing last season, where we got to. I mean, it took a bit longer than this time, but we were effectively safe with about 5 games to go. And, you know, we went to Arsenal and won. We went to, you know, I know you was Cardiff, they were relegated. We played some good stuff there. We played them off the pitch. And then obviously we had that 5-3 against Bournemouth on the final day. I mean, I know we had better players. We had Batshuayi, we had Wan-Bissaka, and ultimately the recruitment this season hasn't been good enough. And there's been more fallings out between the manager and the board. But I think you're right. I think they've just looked at that and they've given up. And I mean, it's not like what annoys me is that they haven't even tried experimenting with other players, like with the young players and that or anything like that. It's just the same starting 11 every single week. It's the same substitutes every single week. And you know me, Owen, I have no problem playing 3 CDMs, sitting back all game and hitting them on the counter and shithousing it. That's how we beat Brighton. That's how we beat Watford. I've got no problem with it when it works. When it doesn't work, my God, it's the worst thing in the world to watch. And just you're crying out for just at least try. When you're 1-0 down, he brings on James McCarthy for James McArthur. I mean, he's not a bad player, but he's not what we need.
The same person, aren't they?
Exactly. They were teammates. I think it was Hamilton as well. So this isn't the first time either.
You know, on that though, there's about 4 things a commentator knows about each club, and that's one thing about Palace.
Yeah.
But they play with each other all through the career.
Yeah, and they still mix them up as well. They still can't even get the right one.
I say on Palace. It might have been you I've seen on Twitter make this point. I was thinking similarly. Where do they go in the next few seasons? Because they've got an aging squad. They've got Roy Hodgson can't go on forever. And you're sort of looking at it now. Zaha's magic has sort of gone a bit. People are starting to work him out. He's only scored a couple of goals this season. And I'm just thinking they're just treading water until they go down at the moment. I'm not saying it'll be this season or next season or the season after, but I can't see them progressing.
Well, it's not going to be this season.
Well, this season, yeah, we know that. You know what I mean?
Well, it might well have been me because I did put something similar yesterday, but loads of our fans have been saying it for ages, so it could have been anyone. But I think, that's exactly what I'm worried about is that, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Roy Hodgson isn't going to be our manager for much longer. So I think there is very much a sort of stagnation there where we're happy to stay up, but we're not happy to plan for the future. And I think the board have taken note of that somewhat because we have been linked with younger players. You know, the likes of Ferguson seem to be coming in. I know we offered, I think it was Danny Loader from Reading, young forward. We offered a contract. Don't know if we'll get him, but it shows. It shows we're making moves. So I appreciate they're trying to do it, but the problem I have is we have a manager that just doesn't like using the young players he has at the club already. You know, players like Max Meyer, Jaro Riedervold, any of the youngsters.
Max Meyer,
you touched on the young players, how they're not being used, and I was wondering because I've seen a lot of debates about it on Twitter about how Roy Hodgson doesn't use the youth enough and all that. And a big debate I've seen is whether or not Roy Hodgson should leave the club in the summer.
I mean, I was all. I mean, you know me. I've been all for him all throughout the season because he was doing well, and I thought if he just got us 2 or 3 more wins and got us like 12, I'd have happily kept him on for another year because that's as good a season we can ask for with the state of our squad.
But since then, enough though? Even if you won 3 games, 3 games shouldn't be the be all and end all of a whole.
No, I'm not saying it's the be all and end all, but I'm saying you've got to make do with what you've got at the same time.
Difference. You should have a plan.
Exactly. But the issue for me is more that there's a clear disconnect between the manager and the board in terms of the players they want to bring in. Exactly. And I think that regardless of, what your aims are, how high you want to push at the table. Because when I say about progressing to the next level, I'm not talking about in terms of league position or Europa League or whatever. I'm talking about where the hell are the next players going to come from? Where's the next manager going to come from? We've got to start thinking about it at some point. And I think what's held the board back for the longest time is they value staying up over everything else. And as a result, they value, they want Premier League experience over anything else. That is their model. Then they're going to stick to it. And I think the style of play that we want to go down, the type of the way we want to run the club, is not a way that most Premier League managers are going to fit into. I mean, we've been linked with Sean Dyche. Even though I really rate him as a manager, I think he's a good manager. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be better than Roy in terms of using the younger players, playing a style of football that fits the ones we already have. I think he would get us mid-table finishes and possibly into Europe. I don't know, but in terms of the long-term stability of the club and how we want to go about conducting ourselves, which is what I'm more interested in, I don't know if he necessarily fits that. So it is a tough one, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I think because you spoke about how the board are mainly just focused on keeping the club in the Premier League and not going any further, and they've obviously done that, but they've been in the Prem for 7 years now, I think it is, and that's all they've had. And the big problem with me for any mid-table club that aren't really going to do anything, the next step, the next kind of ambition they should have is challenging for Europe.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, in fairness to Palace, they were only a couple points off sixth, I think it was, before the after the Bournemouth game. But it's this round of form has completely changed the mood around the place.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily that we don't want to push on and get higher up the table, but it's more of a case of I mean, I think we still have Frank de Boer trauma, to be honest with you. I think that we tried to go that direction. I mean, what we ultimately should have done is we should have, as soon as Sam left, we should have given the job to Roy, let him stabilise us for 2 years, spending little to no money, and then brought in someone like a de Boer when we were actually able to back him, because then we would have had room to make that transition. But instead, we got it wrong and we're paying for it now. So.
The issue I've got though is, and Palace fans who can listen to this can shoot me down all they like, but when you bring in a manager who you're on 0 points, no goals and all of that, and then three years later, whatever, he's still kept you in the Premier League, not spending a penny, by the way. Yeah. I'm not really sure how you can criticise that as a performance. For sure, you can criticise a long-term strategy, and I think that goes well beyond the manager again. But I think there's so many things wrong off the pitch with Palace that
I just think the main problem I personally have with Roy is he just doesn't learn from his mistakes. Like I said, it's always the same starting 11, it's always the same substitutions. But I think that I get what you mean. Look, at the end of the day, he hasn't been backed, and I think if he had been backed, we would probably be doing a bit better. But at the same time, even if he had been, would he have brought in? Would it have just been more CDMs? Would it have not been, how much?
It would be better CDMs. It'd be his CDMs. It would be Alan Pardew's CDMs.
I'll tell you from experience, Roy in the transfer market doesn't go well together.
Exactly.
They didn't get any money there either.
I trust the board. As flawed as it's been with the board, I trust their transfer policy, or at least the one they've currently got now, more than I do Roy's, because I think they've identified, finally, the weaknesses in the squad, and they're trying to address it. And to be fair to them, some of them, we had about 3 players due to come in January. They all got injured. So, I mean, some of it has just been genuinely rotten luck. But I just think, I think this window is a crucial one. If we can bring in 3 or 4 youngsters for whatever price, I think that's a good first step, because at least with them, you've got some players who will be available, and we know we'll be hungry by the time Roy's gone. But yeah, it is. I mean, I just wish that the way we played this season, we're not even focusing on next season. We're not even I'm not even sure what our priority is at the moment. Just lose as little games as possible. Well, that's going great, isn't it?
Something I'm curious about is Wilfried Zaha. Obviously, Crystal Palace legend, arguably the greatest player to play for the club. But if a good offer comes in the summer, would it be best for him to leave so they can use that money to kind of improve the rest of the squad as a whole?
Well, being totally honest, I was saying last summer that we should have sold him. Ultimately, no one came in for the price that we wanted, which is why we didn't. But I just think that I don't think anyone is going to come in with an offer for that after the season he's had. I think I think, you alluded to it before. I think his head's just not there anymore. I think he's just, I think he's had enough. I think he wants to move on. I think he wants to be playing at a higher level because he knows we're not going to get there anytime soon. I don't blame him, to be honest.
Could that perhaps force Palace to kind of lower their asking price there?
I think it should. I think something like, 50 million max is what we should really be asking for after the season he had. And even then, I'm not sure I can see that many teams paying that. But I think that we've ultimately missed out on getting as much money as we could last summer, and we have to now. The longer we leave it, the less we're going to get at the end of it. And I think that, ironically, we were linked with Sarr in the window at one point, but we didn't go in for him because we had Wilf. We didn't have the money to spend. Whereas if we'd sold him, we could have either gotten him or St. Maximan, or we've been linked with Bertrand Traore already a couple of times. Maybe someone like him, any kind of flair signing. That's what we need. If I was to pick any player to go, to spend all our transfer budget on, it would be a player like that, just so it adds a little bit more energy to the team and can reinvigorate the team a bit. I'm not even necessarily saying we have to play more attacking football, but it means that it gives us a bit of a more creative outlet, and it gives teams. It's a bit more of an unexpected curve. So I don't know. I think we have to. I think we really need one sort of marquee signing for however much it is, and then the rest of it needs to be on younger players on good prices, which I know is a lot easier said than done. But I think we've dug ourselves such a big hole, and I think we've got to try and address it as best we can.
For me, there's many issues at Palace, and as much as I use the freebies know, and everyone who listens knows, I'm a huge fan of Roy and the way his career and that. But I think if there's a manager in who can bring the club forward this summer, then it has to be looked at, because he is 72. If he was 10 years younger, I would be arguing like I was with Brighton and Chris Hughton that he shouldn't be let go. But I do look at Roy and I think, have you got another year in you? And I do think it's tough. But what I would say in terms of the issues at Palace, the issues at Palace isn't Roy Hodgson, and the issue is the signings. But the board wants to move one way, and Roy probably doesn't want to. Probably wants experienced Premier League players.
Exactly.
So
I won't. I'll make this my last bit because I don't want to turn into the Palace show. But I mean, again, it's like you said. It's. I mean, again, it's about the transfers and not seeing eye to eye. And there's got to be consistency at that level on all counts, whatever it is. And I think that, I mean, you talked about Brighton before. You're not going to like me to hear this. I think they were totally right to sack Chris Hughton, because I was hoping they'd keep him, because he was absolutely taking them down. I mean, he did a great job getting them up and keeping them for a season, but he totally lost the dressing room by the time he left. They lost 5-0 at home to Bournemouth. I mean, what more do you need to say? And yet they still beat us. So exactly.
Palace fans saying this. Come on, get with the time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a sackable offence, losing to Bournemouth.
I mean, I get you. Potter has definitely been totally overrated in the sense that, he. I mean, they. You look at all the stats; they have actually improved in most of them, and they were at the same number of points now as they got all season. So you'd assume they'd go on to get more. But at the same time, he spent about 60, 70 million in the transfer market, but at the same time, he's being back. He's getting the players he wants, and they are starting to play his style. So I'm worried about them next season, because I think if he's backed again, he gets the players he wants. I think they could do well again.
Yeah, you're worried because you're a Palace fan. I've got no worries about Brighton or Southampton. But anyway, we better move on. Villa. Villa.
Honestly, Aaron, I wouldn't worry about Villa. I mean, like you said, they weren't anything special. If the goal wasn't disallowed for VAR, we could well have gone on to win that game. I don't think.
Yeah, Palace win that. We score first.
I think I'm the only one truly worried about Villa for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And I like Villa. I'd honestly like them to stay up personally.
I think
but
if Villa stay up, it's one of them. I can't see them kicking on next season. They'll be in a dogfight again.
Yeah. There's too much to do with the squad. They're rubbish.
Yeah.
They only really have Grealish and McGinn. Maybe Tom Heaton is injured. Tyler Mings.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
No. Trezeguet's all right.
There's a lot of just championship players. You can have Tom Davis, he'll fit in.
And
he's League One though, isn't he? Not Davis.
He's League One. They'll be in League One if they keep Dean Smith as well.
Yeah.
Spurs 2, Arsenal 1. Has there been a more just to watching two teams and thinking, yeah, they look like Everton. They sound like Everton, but they're not Everton. Yeah, they both just look like Everton, and then somehow Spurs won.
It's a great analysis right there.
Yeah, but they both look like Everton when they play. Just midfielders who aren't any good. But I look at Harry Winks, Lo Celso, and Sissoko. Imagine if we actually spent £42 million on Musa Sissoko, how much even more of a mess we'd be in. But he can run at least. So.
That would just be another example of what was Steve Walsh in charge at the time. Just another example of a waste of money.
According to Richard Keys, Steve Walsh did a good job. So who am I to question?
Okay, I think we should refrain from talking about Everton.
Yeah, well.
And Richard Keys.
Well, I can't. Yeah, Richard Keys. Steve Walsh did a good job. We're moving to Bramblemore or wherever he's and he just prepared and done nothing.
Oh, God.
And then Bournemouth 4, Leicester 1.
That's interesting, I think. I think Bournemouth have been threatening this for a while, I think. And Leicester have really, since Boxing Day, really, when Liverpool beat them 4-0 at the King Power, Leicester have really dropped off. They look.
You're not taking credit for that, are you?
No, I'm not taking credit for it. But they've really dropped off since then, and they looked dead cert for top four, didn't they? They were closer to Liverpool than Man City were, and since then they've fallen off the edge of a cliff. And we quite often see that with Brendan Rodgers. At Liverpool, we go on runs where we win 10 and then win like 2 of the next 10, then win the next 10, so it'd be very inconsistent, the form. And I think when Rodgers went to Celtic, I thought, oh, maybe it's clicked, maybe he's found that consistency, and then it turns out no, it's just the SPL being pretty rubbish.
He is. I got stick off Leicester fans, of course I do, for saying about after we beat them 2-1, he is the Northern Irish Alan Pardew, in the sense he will win 11 games on the spin, and then he'll lose 11 on the spin. And I've always said that about him. He doesn't convince me. His teams can't defend. In my opinion.
I would have liked to see where those 11 wins came from under us in that last year, because it was just the 11 losses bit, like 2 draws in the end.
What I'd say about Brendan Rodgers,
his Newcastle team.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers' teams run on confidence, very much so. They run on momentum, so that's why Liverpool nearly won the league in 2013-14. Apart from obviously Suarez, Sturridge, Gerrard, and Sterling, it was Brendan Rodgers is a very good man manager, and he'll get the best out of individual players, but I'm not sure he can coach a team defensively. As soon as Celtic went into Europe, we saw in Europe they were just dreadful in Europe.
Yeah.
And if Leicester go into Europe again, I don't expect them to do anything, because I think Rodgers is suspect when it comes to big games. It was against Aston Villa, semi-finals, the FA Cup. We were 1-0 up and we bottled it, lost 2-1. And it happened against Chelsea as well in that and Palace, obviously, in that final run-in into the title in 2014, when obviously Palace came from 3-0 down against us. And even the Man and even the Man City game in that title run in which we won 3-2. It was just a bit more of there wasn't really any, for want of a better phrase, any sort of game plan. It was just hit them as hard as you can early on and hope for the best, all out attack. And when we conceded to Chelsea first, with the Gerrard slip, there wasn't really any sort of plan going forward. It was just throw as many men forward and hope for the best. And I think we're seeing a bit of that with Leicester, is get as many creative players on the pitch as possible and hope for the best. And I'm sure Leicester will do all right again next season. I think they're still overachieving, but Rodgers, I'd have expected him to become a bit more consistent with his results by now.
Yeah, I mean, I was out last night, so I didn't see the game in full, but I saw it in glimpses, and from what I saw from mainly in the first half, Leicester were fairly comfortable. Bournemouth were pretty terrible.
Yeah.
They got lucky with some terrible defending from Bournemouth to score the first goal, but they looked all right. Then Bournemouth equalised from the spot. I think it was 3 minutes later. So they let Solanke score somehow, and then Soyuncu decided to be an idiot. And he kicked Callum Wilson for no apparent reason. And from there, I've never seen a top. I mean, they've been poor since Boxing Day. We know that, but ultimately they haven't really dropped from third. I've never seen a top 4 team capitulate that much especially against a team in the bottom 3.
No. Well, yeah, no, I haven't either. The only thing I can think of that was quite similar was when we played Sunderland when we had Martinez on Boxing Day, and we could have gone top of the league that night because I think Liverpool were playing the day later. It was a Boxing Day, and Everton could have gone top of the league. Can you imagine? Well, we could have done, but we lost 1-0 in Everton fashion when Tim Howard just let the ball slip through him because he's Tim Howard and he's rubbish. So, yeah, but Bournemouth for me, if there's anything that I can just take from this season is that please, for love, for God's sake, do not let Bournemouth stay in the Premier League. I can't have Owen Doyle and the rest of them praising Eddie Howe because he's finished 17th. I'm made up for him.
And by the way, we were talking about sackable offences before. Conceding 2 goals to Dominic Solanke should be one of them.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
The thing is with Bournemouth though, I didn't even think they were that good. Like they were good throughout that win. I know they deserved the win, but they were good throughout the win, and I'm delighted they got Man City up next because I'm just hoping that kills any momentum they could build.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? If it comes to the last day, and I will make this statement now, if it comes to the last game of the season and Everton keep Bournemouth in the Premier League, well, I will not be responsible for my actions if Everton let Eddie Howe stay in the Premier League.
I'm going to guarantee now, if that is the case and Bournemouth stay in the Premier League, it will be at the expense of Watford.
Will it?
And this podcast will be long gone.
I think West Ham will get out of it. So if Bournemouth stay up, it'll be at the expense of us. I look forward to a great Championship season, but I'll be fuming at Everton.
Nigel Pearson can take on a pack of wolves all he likes. He hasn't seen me if he keeps Eddie Howe in the league. I was banking from about February that either one of Graham Potter and Eddie Howe would be relegated this season. Now I'm really not sure. And, oh, come on. They've got to play Man City and they've got to play Southampton. Ralph, I'm begging you, mate. Just play
you're begging Ralph. I'm begging Ralph.
What?
Yeah, exactly. You're not even in it.
I know.
Your agenda is more important than his club survival, apparently.
Yeah.
Graham Potter propaganda.
Yeah, he's going to do something now and annoy me as well. He'll probably stop Burnley getting into Europe, won't he?
Probably, actually, yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, surely you want them in Europe again when they capitulate again?
No, I do. Yeah, I do.
Well, I think we've got a few questions via Instagram. And to be honest, a couple of these can be just yes or no answers. So, Wolves Alex says, does Wolves have any chance of finishing top 4? Sam?
I think that I think when they lost to Sheffield United, they lost the chance of finishing in the top 4, really. You look at the gap now between this.
You there, Sam?
Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Wolves, sure.
I'm just going to take that as a no because they're not going to get into the top 4.
So no.
Yeah.
Alex and Wolves get in the top 4.
What's this?
Can Wolves get in the top 4?
Okay, I can hear you. There we go. No, I don't think. I agree. I think the time's passed because they defeated Arsenal, defeated Sheffield United. They're 5 points adrift now. They've got I know they've got Chelsea on the final day. They've also got Palace and Burnley. I think specifically Burnley, that'll be tough.
Come on, Burnley.
Well, I mean, again, yeah, they're going to get a nice, healthy 3-4 boost to the goal difference when they play Arsenal in next week. So I wouldn't rule them out just yet.
I think top 6 is certainly achievable. They're obviously 6th now, but I think top 4 would have gone.
Yeah, I think to be fair to Wolves, if the current top 4, Chelsea and Leicester, keep playing the way they are, then they've got every chance. But I think Man United in particular have just been too strong the past few weeks, and I think they'll probably get 3rd. And I fancy Chelsea to get 4th over Leicester just because they are slightly more consistent.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. At West Ham Online, also known as Alfie Jones, has said, "Can I come on the podcast?" No.
You just love answering this question, don't you? You brought it up like 3 times already.
I have, because he will be listening until this point, and he's already been on. He's asked me about 7 times, "Can he come on again?" The answer is yes. Won't other people have their turn? So yeah, that's the. We also have someone saying, "What animal would you fight with your bare hands?"
There's a lot of animals out there.
Well, that's just literally popped up now, and I'm not at liberty to answer that.
Well, your answer seems to be Nigel Pearson if he keeps Bournemouth up. So
I'm gonna go ahead and say bear, so I don't have to endure Watford relegation.
How about we make it? What do you think the biggest animal is that you'd be able to fight with your bare hands?
There again, I'm not enjoying Watford relegation.
What about a sheep?
Well, yeah. To be honest, yeah, no animal, any animal would that me off. I cross over in town when the seagulls come.
Oh, he does.
So I'm not. I've got no chance against any animal.
The Eagles have got it in for Owen Parks.
I can't think what the Seagulls do. I can see what the Seagulls might. They do. He does have a bit of vendetta against their manager.
A little bit, just a little bit.
To send them seagulls on the chair. True. Oh god. Yeah, and then there's just a few people asked about City's ban being upturned. To be honest, I haven't got a second clue about the ins and outs of this, other than can we spend money this summer? If so, yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I can't say I know anything about this ban or anything.
I've read a bit about it, and I think it's basically what this does, lifting the ban, is give everybody, namely PSG, etc., the green light to carry on with this with the country state sponsored football clubs, basically, doesn't it? It sort of just, it's in a way it legalizes it, because they know now, well, they can say, oh well, you didn't give City the ban, so you can't give us the ban. And I think UEFA went in too early with not enough evidence. So
yeah.
It basically prevents any smaller clubs from having a chance at competing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm sort of in 2 minds in this, because on the one hand, obviously it's awful that it's been overturned, and they should stick to the rules and be consistent about enforcing them. But on the other hand, I'm not sure that financial fair play really did much to benefit the smaller clubs in the first place. I mean, that's the whole point.
Didn't.
So I don't think that's doing that balance. I mean, it's always going to be tilted in favour of the big clubs. And I mean, I think that the scandal for me more is that, I mean, you talk about, this is clubs to get the green light to do whatever they want. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, if this is Sheffield United or Burnley doing this, not that either of those clubs will be spending £100 million in the next window, but but if it was, then they wouldn't. They'd be lucky if you get an appeal. It's clearly done for the bigger clubs that have all the money.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant the PSGs and
No, I know you did, but it's just this is. As long as the people at the top are the ones still making the decisions, who they currently are, we're not going to see any kind of reform as far as that's concerned.
I think there's a wider conversation to have around financial fair play, and it's going to become redundant now, isn't it, really? And what does it actually achieve?
Yeah, for me, the whole thing's has always been a bit redundant, because UEFA have put things in place that it is supposed to make things fairer, but it doesn't. What it does is, like Newcastle, I'm going to use Newcastle as an example. It just limits Newcastle from being able to spend money that'll be pumped into the club. Whereas it protects already the established elite, who already have the money and who already have the revenue. It prevents upstarts in a way.
From my point of view, what it tries to encourage, I mean, we can discuss the morals and whether this actually is the case, but from my point of view, it tries to encourage almost a Jurgen Klopp style of management.
Oh, come on.
No, listen up. So it encourages being shrewd in the market. It encourages gradually building your clubs. It's going against this culture of sack your manager after 6 months if you haven't won every single match. But in modern football, I don't think it's realistic that every club is going to have a manager as good as someone like Jurgen Klopp, is it? or have a
dear
board,
me.
or have,
This is
or
Jurgen
have
Klopp
a,
propaganda.
Oh, he's just vomiting off to the side over here.
or have a,
Yeah,
or
against
have a
Klopp.
board that are going to invest shrewdly. So I think on the Newcastle point you made, that's another conversation altogether with the morals of allowing Newcastle not to be bought, but letting Man City be bought, and basically the owners are both state sponsored. And I think with Newcastle, this is going slightly off topic. We've got to remember that the people who are making the decisions in the Premier League, they don't have a problem with human rights abuses. It's broadcasting
Yeah.
purity they have a problem
Yeah.
with.
The
The whole thing's sort of slanted against the normal person, isn't it? And for me, this Man City ban, or not ban in this case, is just another step closer to a Super League, which for me would be the death of football.
I
Yeah.
think that's part of it as well. I think they are deliberately trying to incentivize this Super League amongst the fans.
Yeah.
Essentially saying, well, hang on a minute. If these clubs can't compete with the smaller clubs, the smaller clubs want a chance to compete. How about we take these clubs out of the league and put them somewhere else? Like that's inevitably where this conversation is going, and that's very much been the intent from day one, in my opinion. So
Can we just
they
take
know they
Everton
can't
out
do it
the
straight
league
away because they'd be.
and end the league?
Sorry?
What's that?
Can we take Everton out the league and not put them back in?
Good choice. That'd be good.
Yeah, I'm all for that, to be honest. Well, look, we could talk about City all day, but I think we're going to finish off because Aaron, I've asked him every week, all of them about who's going to go down. I haven't asked you, George, or Sam, but Sam, who do you think is going to go down now?
Well, Norwich are down. Let me look at the table. I think Villa will go down. I think they probably deserve to go down, to be honest. And I don't like John Terry. And I think it will be Bournemouth, but I want it to be West Ham.
Yeah. George?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Sam. I think the current bottom three, obviously Norwich are already down, like you said, but I think Bournemouth and Villa I think they've just left it too late ultimately, and I think with their run-ins that they've got left, I think they need at least 4 or 5 points to clamber above Watford or West Ham, in my opinion, and I can't see them doing it, especially with Villa going to West Ham on the last day.
Yeah. Aaron, you're going to say Watford are going to go down, aren't you?
No, I'm not going to say that, but I don't think I can bring myself to comment on this until we play West Ham. Because like I said, it rides heavily on the next 2 games for Villa and Bournemouth. I'll just stick with what I said previously, Bournemouth and Villa, but I'm a lot more nervous than I was a week ago.
I'm going to change my approach slightly because Villa and Bournemouth have both got to still play Everton, and there's no way both of them don't leave with a result. So
Please do us a favour.
One of them is staying up, and I don't know which one, because one of them are going to at least get a result, and that's going to be enough. So I'm going to go. I think Aston Villa will stay up, and I think it's going to be either Watford or Villa, and it depends.
It's going to be either Watford or West Ham, isn't it? Either way, Brighton are going down at this point, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Just a quick one to end the podcast. Can we have Parks Cam on the last day? I just want to see his reaction. Like Gogglebox.
Yeah, it's that thing where they do like the Let's Soccer Saturday and they go around.
Yeah, that's it.
Just like a camera on me looking at all the games, just insulting every player and everyone ever.
I just love to see it when Eddie Howe Bournemouth beat Everton to stay up.
No,
I think I'm more of an Everton fan than he is for the rest of the season.
Last minute winner.
I really think I'm more of an Everton fan for the rest of the season.
You probably are.
And we set aside all our differences we had in the past and just win a couple of games for us.
Yeah, to be honest, it's home games against Villa and Bournemouth, and if they were both in November, and with fans in the ground, they're easy wins for us. I just don't see how either of them don't leave without a result because we're pretty abject, to be honest.
Worrying me here, Parks.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Norwich are gone. I'm going to go Bournemouth, for God's sake, please, and I'm going to go Watford.
You've actually done it. Holy crap!
I think push coming. We move.
I think Villa get a result at Goodison, and I think they get a result against West Ham, and I think that keeps them up. God,
I think West Ham should be fine because I'm not confident for our game against them.
No. Well, I think we're going to leave it there, lads. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, mate.
No problem.
Yeah. There'll be another episode very soon. Maybe when we've got something actual to talk about other than just possibilities and maybes and all the rest of it. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening or whenever you're listening to this, and we hope to see you again soon.